start a bit rough. That's how we do it.
Before we get going, I don't know. I wouldn't know. I've never been on Odd Dealers.
Oh, you know, better let them know.
You've never been here, but you've been here. If you get me, you know, it's that I'm woke. It's that wokeness.
He was on the I Hate Drake episode, that impromptu episode. You remember the one we were just chatting in the office?
Yes.
And then it just went out. So it wasn't even like a proper episode.
But that episode should have been recorded way earlier, in my opinion.
That's because we decided, we didn't realize how intense that conversation was getting.
True.
Right, so, yeah.
But anyway.
Okay, cool.
Ladies and gentlemen.
That's the corona.
Jesus. So you can see we're social distancing.
Listen.
But ladies and gentlemen, it's your resident Black Spider-Man, Karabo, Mdluli. I'm here with my boy.
Yes, it's me. I'm back, ladies and gentlemen.
It's been a while. Shout out to all the Zoom episodes. Today we have a special guest, a man who's had a big part in Odd Dealers for a while, as a supporting voice, and, you know, some strategy and all that kind of stuff. And today, after begging me, he's finally got a chance.
It did happen.
It did happen.
I was there when he was begging to come
But
on.
let's let him do
I was
the
on my
introduction.
knees. I was on my knees, guys. Like, come on.
But please do your introductions. Who are we with today?
My introduction.
Yeah.
My name is Adriano Miguel. And I'm just glad to be part of the Art Dealers. This is like bucket list stuff. It's done.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, you heard it. Yeah. Before we get into like just so the fans know you, get a bit of history of you and your background and everything, very exciting background. I just wanted to say thank you so much for the support on the last episode, the purely Afrocentric episode with my cousin, my blood, Mdluli, aka Mo. That episode has been doing really well. So shout out to the Mo T family from Tatarampedi's page. We'll link them in the top because he'll be on very, very soon. So that will be a vibe. Shout out to the team. I just want to say thanks. I love it. I love to see Art Dealers doing well. So thank you so much to everyone who watched it, liked it, commented, shared it. Shout out to Kaz. I love you. Thank you so much for being on. And we'll definitely have more episodes like that. But guys, today...
Hopefully I get invited to the next episode like
hopefully.
that.
It was over Zoom.
Me too.
Yeah.
I mean, you should have sent the link. Bro. We'll hop on quickly.
You know, on Zoom, if you have more than 2 people, it's like a 40-minute limit. So one-on-one, it's like as long as you want.
That's a lie.
I'm telling you, bro. I know Zoom, bro.
We could just get the executive package.
I could pay. That's true. But today, guys, it's been a pretty heavy couple of weeks. Yeah. Couple of heavy 2 weeks in the world. For all our international fans, we are in South Africa. And I think around the world have seen, you know, news of police brutality, racism, Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, all these names starting to come up, especially like we said in the past 2 weeks. But before, and I just want to say, like, I'm sorry that we've been a bit late to the party as far as content. But Jabs and I were speaking off air, and we were saying, like, we didn't want to just put out content for the sake of putting out content. We really wanted it to be researched and kind of have our headspace in the right place. Jabs and I, obviously, both young black men and very invested and emotionally connected to this issue. So we both were like kind of holding back as far as putting out content relating to this. Even in the episode with Mo, it was a very small segment in the overall episode, but obviously we did touch on it because it is something that we are invested in, as I mentioned. But yeah, guys, before we get onto it.
Yeah, like with what you were saying with us holding back, it's more of a, we don't want to be those guys that just, we're quick to say what everyone else is saying and not being part of the solution of helping people change their thinking, see different perspectives in this, and not just throwing out that white people this, white people that, blah, 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 and just giving no tools. Right. It is probably right, but like giving no tools to changing the situation, not challenging people's thinking. I feel like if we had jumped at the opportunity, it's wasted words in terms of just spoke for the sake of speaking. Yeah, you know,
for sure. But before we get into everything, the nitty-gritty of the conversation, because we're sort of kind of going off the cuff here, we're just wanting to have a really good conversation, and that's why we brought Adriano with us, because he's a really cool guy, amazing mind.
He's wise.
He's super wise, super woke as well.
Can I say hell? Wise as hell.
Wise as hell. Yeah, don't worry.
Wise as hell.
Don't worry. Our listeners are all over, bro. But before we get into it, I just wanted to, for our viewers, our fans, maybe your fans are watching.
Who I've got any. Mom, Dad, love you.
The kids.
Thanks for watching. The kids.
So who is Adriano? What's your background? What's a bit of your story for the people?
Oh man, sheesh. This is raw, guys, and real, and
Literally,
obviously they didn't send me any questions because
it's unscripted, bro.
We're just trying to get the
real.
dude. So, yeah, there's no nutshell for anybody. I think that's the beauty about life. I don't think you can, sometimes we label people like, this is Linda, he's an art dealer, or Jabs, he's this or that, or, and sometimes we can stereotype people.
Yeah.
But people are brothers or sisters, fathers, daughters, wives, husbands, that kind of stuff. And so many times just to say, like, this is who I am, I think it's so limiting.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? But for those of you who don't know me, I just see myself as a creator,
Son of God.
a son of God.
Yeah.
Just on a journey to learn more, to see more. I've traveled the world. I've been so blessed and fortunate to do the things I've done. I've been involved in music videos that were nominated for Grammy Awards for Best Music Video. We lost out to Kendrick Lamar, but that's we won't go there.
Firstly, can I stop you? That flex, there, you just slid it in like
Like it's nothing.
nominated for a Grammy. We lost to Kendrick Lamar. Like it's just a normal thing for you.
Yeah, so I'm a passionate football lover. I played semi-pro football, was involved with Wits University, Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns back in the day.
You got a celeb, guys.
I love everything creative, from art to movies to film to music. Had the privilege of traveling the world, directed stuff in Canada, in China, editor. We've got a visitor. This, like I said, this is raw and unscripted, and
We have a good friend, a friend of the podcast who has been on before.
A family member.
A family member. And
Bringing treats.
Look at that. Lee Weber, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Forbes.
Guys, Echo
Mr.
Cafe.
Weber.
Echo.
Echo.
This is amazing
Thanks, Lee.
sponsorship. Thank you very much, Lee.
echocoffee.co.za. They're on Instagram.
Episode Youth with Lee Weber. Check it out on our page. Really good episode as well.
Right, people are going to think this is scripted, but this
No,
is
no,
so
this is
really not.
unexpected.
This is-
So shout out to Lee Weber for actually just...
Yeah, that really just happened.
Literally just happened. Sorry
They're
for
not going to
interrupting
believe us.
you, but,
No, it's fine. But just passionate about the creative world, passionate about life, passionate about seeing people live up to their full potential. I'm married, my beautiful wife, Cara. We just celebrated 15 years.
Come on, congratulations.
Don't go look at my Instagram because you'll see a
Please
pic
do.
from my wedding
Please do. It's amazing.
15 years ago. Yeah, I was wearing a white suit, long hair. Anyway, we don't want to go there. I've got 4 kids, and just super blessed to live the life that I've lived and to see the things that I've seen. So I don't know if that helps at all.
That's
but
That's perfect because like we said, we wanted to get him on, or we were very happy to have him on because like you said, you've traveled the world, you've seen a bunch of different cultures, like you've been exposed. I really do say like traveling really does open your eyes to like a bunch of things. You've met so many interesting and cool people, and even just conversations that we've had in private have been so like enriching.
Yeah.
So that's why we definitely wanted to have him on. So for one of our first episodes of kind of on this topic on Black Lives Matter and everything like that. So I just wanted to get your guys' first take on when you will go from, because I mean there was obviously the Audrey, I think the guy who was he was jogging, he was attacked eventually. Audrey Ahmed, that's right. So this didn't just spark up from when George Floyd was killed, and obviously this has been an issue since like, I don't know, 2014, 2012, Black Lives Matter, the hashtag has been going on for a while. But when everything blew up to the scale it is now, all these protests and everything, what was your initial thoughts? How were you feeling, Jabs?
Yeah, like with the first one, with Audrey, right?
Audrey,
Yeah. Like, this is going to sound bad, but didn't affect me in terms of, I think social media just desensitized us so much that seeing a video like that was literally just another thing. Nothing shocking. If you had to like show that to my parents or anyone older, that is like, that's so hectic. But with people our age, it's just another video, just another killing in America.
Yeah.
And then I saw the George Floyd one, And initially, same feeling, and then that feeling just started sinking in of like, dude, are you seriously just not really disregarding, but are you okay with seeing a fellow black person? Yes, we in two different sides of the world, but a fellow human being as well, just getting murdered on video, and that does not affect you as a person. And I think, not to make this religious or anything, but God started just softening my heart on, just because I don't know the person, just because I'm not close to the person, doesn't mean it shouldn't affect me, you know? So like, the more and more I started sitting on it and just letting it marinate in my heart, literally it started breaking me that in 2020, amidst all of this global pandemic, people still have time for racism. I think that more than anything shocked me that for years, centuries, people have been fighting for freedom. And today, as a black person, things just haven't changed. The system looks like it's changed, but it just hasn't changed, you know? So there's that thing of like traveling. What if I was in America visiting?
Yeah.
They wouldn't care that I'm a visitor. You're just a big black man. You're a threat to me, you know? So it's one of those things that the more and more I started thinking about it, the more I started seeing people's reactions, the more I started opening up my mind and heart to, dude, what's really happening here, you know? I feel like being stuck in this bubble that we are in, and we are very fortunate to be living in the areas that we're living in, that black and white people live
Harmoniously.
Yes, that word. And having a lot of white friends and stuff like that, but people don't know this. This is my normal.
Yeah.
So there's that assumption that this is normal for everyone, that I'm friends with white people, whatever. But then there's other people on the other side of the spectrum that they don't have the luxury that I have of knowing that white people aren't evil. You know, like they are evil white people, but not all of them are like that, you know. So it was a very challenging time in my own life. As hectic as it is globally, it was more of a challenge as, what's my stance? What am I doing to help change the thinking of white people and black people on racism, you know? So, yeah, that's...
No, that was good. And you, Eddie, what was your initial feelings?
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's sad, like Jabs, like you're saying, you're almost like desensitized. And it's amazing that like you say, we're in 2020 and to see videos of people getting killed, you can almost just scroll. You know, like, oh, that's shocking. But we've seen it before. When I saw that Ahmed video with the guy getting shot with a shotgun, I just I just couldn't believe it, bro. Like the audacity to get in the Americans call it a pickup, we call it a bucky in South Africa, but the audacity to get in cars, chase someone down with guns, and not even like, dude, even if he looked dodgy, even if he looked sketchy, even if he looked like he's in the wrong place and he doesn't supposed to be there, or whatever the thinking is, to not even go out and question. You already outnumbered the guy, but you're taking guns, there's an intent to cause harm. And man, I don't know, it's just I'm getting all emotional, and this wasn't part of the plan, but like it's just it's like disgusting that a human can want to do that to another human, you know. And that's just like you're saying, like that's just raw and real. Like when I looked at that Ahmed thing, I did, like my wife was like, what are you looking at? And I was like, I just didn't have words. Like even now, you don't have words, because it's like, dude, that's someone's son, that's someone's, you know, and it's like, to just be gunned down like that, I just think it's like inhumane, you know. In this day and age. I mean,
no, for sure. And I think, also for me, I think you guys both kind of nailed it there, especially now in just the social media age where we see like a whole bunch of stuff all the time. Like the word desensitized, that's such a a relatable word. I think I definitely even the Audrey Ahmed thing, like when that came out, I was just like exactly like you guys, just probably more like Joe's, just like, oh damn, like this sucks, but then wasn't surprised. And I think that's for me, even when George Floyd was killed, that video I think caught my attention more. I watched that whole video, that whole 9-minute video, just like, or the footage of people took that kind of leaked, or not leaked, but like they released, and you're just seeing. And then you see more footage. You see like of the cops on the other side who are holding his legs down, like the guy couldn't move, and you know what I mean. It's just crazy. And I think with me, I just wasn't surprised. You know, like I was talking to Brett Jones today, a friend of ours, and I was even saying to him like, bro, I'm not even going to be surprised in like 2 months' time when another guy's killed. Like, and I say that with so much confidence that it's probably going to happen, you know what I mean? I don't want it to happen, of course. Like, no, I don't want anyone to die, but it's just, I'm not surprised, bro. And I think in 2020, the fact that Black Lives Matter is still a hashtag that we have to repost, we have to Blackout Tuesday, you know, all that kind of stuff. We're still doing this when my earliest recollection of Black Lives Matter was probably like 2011, maybe 2012. It was probably going on longer than that, but that was when I first caught attention of it. And the fact that it's still going along when I was in high school. I've been out of high school for like 6 years now, and like I just find it like, I don't know what's happened. I don't want to say I've lost hope in humanity, but I'm almost there. Like I really am almost there. And again, like Jobs was saying, not to get too spiritual, but I mean, it is my lifestyle. It is what it is. We've been kind of talking about grace and having grace for people, and I think I've run out of human strength to have grace and love for this issue. I really have. I really have been, reading through the Bible and, going through devotions on patience, and we've been chatting about it in our home groups, cell groups, and we've been chatting on the thing of having grace with people and patience, and like the one scripture. This is really getting scripture. It's biblical here. It's in John. I can't remember it now, but maybe I'll flash it up on here, where it says they will know they are my disciples when they love each other, when they show that they love each other. And that really like struck me. Jesus saying like, this is how you'll identify other Christians, by the way they treat other people. You know what I mean? And I was just like, yo, man, like, and the timeliness of that scripture, I was like, yo, Lord, if this is for me, like I really, because the anger I was feeling was just unreal, guys. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It was just
like with what you're saying about, like when you're saying like, yeah, no, this is getting really spiritual and biblical, and I don't think it is, because what you said before you went there is that in your flesh, as a human, you've lost that hope and that grace for people, that strength, and it's that thing of you are getting your strength from someone else, being God, and finding hope from there and getting different perspective, and not just being driven by anger and hatred that white people are driven by towards black people. So it's like switching the flip, that I'm angry, there's hate, there's anger in me, but I know that's not the solution to fixing this thing, so like, don't apologize for it being too spiritual or religious. It's people need hope right now. The entire world needs hope, and the Bible has a whole bunch of hope, whole bunch of grace everywhere, So like, just to encourage people, like, if you text Linda, he runs the Our Dealers account.
DM me. It's all good.
Give you some hope and just wisdom, man.
And I think that's what's needed right now, is hope, because just speaking to black friends in London, black friends in the US, it's like there's anger, there's hurt, there's hatred, so what is the hope? I mean, I even saw something on Instagram that I think it was in one of the marches or the protests, they were playing Tupac Changes. And like, I remember listening to that song back in the day, and that song like really affected me.
When it came out,
When it came out, I was alive. And that is another Art Dealers. Because for some of you who don't know, that kind of music was banned in South Africa. You couldn't buy it, you couldn't download it, because the internet hadn't exploded the way that it had exploded. I even know radio stations like Radio LM, I think that's what it's called. LM stands for Lorenzo Marx. White guys set up a radio station in Maputo. That's what Lorenzo Marx became, in Mozambique, because they were banned from playing certain music in South Africa. So they set up a radio station in Mozambique to play in music, and people could tune in from South Africa, but obviously they wouldn't go to court or get jail time because they were in Mozambique. And that's how white people could listen to music from overseas, because anything to do with color and unity and any black artist that was saying something that was banned in South Africa. So you couldn't buy Tupac, you couldn't buy Notorious Biggie, Notorious B.I.G. CDs. We're talking about CDs. You know, some of you don't even know what CDs are.
Not digital copies.
Not digital copies.
No Apple Music or Spotify.
So for a young white guy in South Africa to be listening to Tupac, I remember guys in it was standard 6, which is now grade 8, they would call me a wigger. Okay, anyway, we don't want to go there. But it's like, you know, and that song affected me then. And 2020, people are playing Tupac knowing that things haven't changed.
Sure.
Since the 90s. And before that, you can take it back before that, because there's been police brutality, and there's been like, you can take it back generations, man. And it's like, that's why I'm encouraged to talk to young people, because young people, you guys are the future.
Yeah.
And if we're not talking about things like this, if we're not having conversations about this, then things will never change.
Yeah.
But then how does conversation lead to true change?
Sure.
You know, because I think black people are tired of being at this place.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad to say, but maybe I'm going to get persecuted for this or whatever, but it's almost like become like Christmas and Easter.
Yeah.
Like once a year there's a situation. More times a year, it's just like Will Smith said it.
Just another event.
Racism hasn't. What did Will Smith say? Racism hasn't increased. It's just being filmed.
Yeah.
Something like that. And that's the sad part, man. Like even Black Lives Matter, like you're saying. Oh man, and there's a lot of ignorance out there. Because when you say Black Lives Matter, then white people get offended, and then all lives matter. And it's like, oh man, I want to separate two thoughts, because we want to try and change some mindsets. So there's Black Lives Matter, the organization, and then there's the movement called Black Lives Matter. Yeah. And, you know, when this whole, because like, you know, social media is a wonderful thing. Everybody's got their voice. Everybody has a right to say whatever they want. And there's a misinterpretation of freedom of speech. And so, like, I see all these hashtags, all lives matter, all lives matter. But when that happened, an analogy came to my mind of a couple of years ago. I was grinding some steel, and I nearly grinded my toe off. So anyway, there's blood and there's everything, and my father-in-law rushes me to the emergency room at the hospital, and I rock up there, and the nurse says, "What's wrong?" I say, I cut my toe off, or there's something wrong with I grinded my toe. She's like, you know, my shoe's half grinded, there's blood splurting out and stuff. I didn't say my body. Echo. Echo is getting in on action. And the analogy that I have is that I didn't say my body's in trouble, I said my toe's in trouble. So when we say Black Lives Matter, we're not saying that the others don't matter. We're saying, like, it's an emergency. Black Lives Matter. The question isn't, do all lives matter? The question being asked is, do Black lives matter as much as white lives? Do you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people are ignorant there. We know that all lives matter, but I think, and I don't want to, this is like a white privilege thing. I'm not talking on behalf of black people, and I'm not talking on behalf of white people. This is my personal opinion. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's like, black people want to know, do their lives matter as much as white lives matter? You know, and it's not about all lives matter. It's like right now, certain people, black people, are feeling inferior, and there's a system that is against them, and they're asking the question, do Black Lives Matter? That's my interpretation. So when I see hashtag all lives matter, that's not what being asked. I think that's just being ignorant. And I think in this time, it's that ignorance, because the media is also playing a role in this. Because I've got friends, like I said, I got some black friends in the UK sending me stuff, and that's why I separated Black Lives Matter, the question, and Black Lives like a proper organization, because they telling me that white racist people are funding Black Lives Matter. And I mean, it's just weird that also this is happening before the US elections. Yeah. And it's almost like you've got all these powers at play trying to divide people, trying to separate people. And I think during this time, the only way we can move forward is instead of polarizing and dividing people, it's about bringing people together and having conversations and being real and allowing people to share their real feelings, because I think it's part of grieving. And from a South African point of view, we know that what happened in the States, it happened in America, so some South Africans or some people on the other side of the world are saying, well, that doesn't affect us. Yeah. But I think in South Africa it affects us even more because of the history. And it's not only black on white stuff, it's male versus female stuff. It's tribal stuff, you know, it's xenophobia stuff. Like South Africa is a melting pot for a whole lot of stuff. And if we're not having conversations, then it's like we're just sweeping stuff under the carpet. Yeah, true. And if we can't deal with things, we can never move forward. Yeah,
it's like, sorry to jump in, but when you're talking about your toe and it being cut and you saying to the nurse that, no, my toe hurts, not my body, there's that thing of, we're not saying that the toe isn't important. The body, think of the body as humanity, society as a whole. The toe is a vital part of the body. Cut a toe off, someone won't be able to walk. They'll struggle to walk. So it's that thing of like, let's, as the body, we're all focusing our pain on the problem right now. Everything that's hurting is the problem. As the body, we're aching, you know. Then there's that thing of humanity. Black people are vital. We in this, as humanity, everyone needs to chip in and like, okay guys, as the people not getting affected, what is it that we're doing wrong? And not the people, like it's not, I'm not saying white people must be sitting together and saying, okay, white people, what are we getting wrong? It's that thing of like, listen to the black man. Listen to what they say. Listen to what is, what is it that we're doing that's hurting them, you know? What hasn't changed? It's that thing of, there needs to be interracial conversations. You know, there can't be a conversation just with white people amongst each other saying, okay, how do we change? Because there's no different perspective coming in. There's no, for generations, my family has been getting affected by apartheid. You know, like, for example, I always tell Linda, like, the stuff that my dad has told me that's happened to him, his friends, and my grandfather telling me stories from apartheid. Every time we talk about that, instantly get angry. And just instantly get angry. And my dad, I'll be lying if my dad has ever said, carry that anger or think this way, think that way. He's more like, dude, don't make that your burden. I've worked hard to put you in this situation for you to change what's around you, impact people that are around you, change people's thinking, you know. And it's that thing of, it's such a tough place to be, because I think anger is the easy way out. I'm most probably going to offend people with the stuff that I'm saying, but anger is not the solution, you know. We need to be taking this, as Adriano said, we are the next generation. We are next in line to be running what's happening. So it's that thing of like, we need to change our thinking. We need to impact each other, you know. As black men, Linda and I, how are we going to change our white friends' thinking? How are we going to impact their thinking for their children? How's their thinking going to be different from their great-grandparents, you know? Yeah. And it's that thing of, yes, it's not a responsibility for us to change white people and like make them not racist, but it's that thing of, we need to change their thinking. Yeah. That is our responsibility. We need to change their thinking, you know? And it's that thing of, we also need to come from a place of love. No, and be seen as equals. We can't be seen as equals with anger. Because anger will get into the way of us going forward or us transitioning into different places, you know? So it's that thing of, as much as it angers me what's going on globally, my first thing, the solution is love. And love is a hard thing, you know? And it's a thing of patience and just us wanting to see change. And us being angry won't solve anything.
I think for me, hold on, just one question. It won't reset the camera, right? Or will it keep going?
No, I hope not. What are we on?
It was on 28.
Do you want to stop it and then carry on?
Yeah, we're gonna take a slight intermission. We'll continue. We're back from our break. Just to continue quickly, just from yes, I love this conversation. Just from what Jobs was saying, just about his family. So for me, this is where I think my anger comes in, or where my emotions come in, is because, so my family, I'm so privileged that I've grown up in an extremely mixed family. My great grandfather was
crazy. It's crazy.
My great grandfather was a white guy, and from Scotland. So he's from Europe, mind you, people. So here's the thing: if a guy from the '60s, already from Europe, and Glasgow, which has 0.3% black people. If he can come to South Africa in peak apartheid time, not even peak, just apartheid time.
Come himself a black lady.
And come himself a beautiful woman of color. And then the dynasty of the Mdluli was born. if he can, even back then, that wasn't even that many generations ago, and I understand racism is such a historical, since the dawn of humanity, there's always been tribes and whatever that have thought they're better than others. So this thought has been almost 2,000 years old, or the thing is, for me, I just feel it's such an outdated way of thinking. I didn't choose to be black. Adriano didn't choose to be white.
And we had a conversation about this.
And then we were just saying I don't know how I can hate someone for I can hate X, Y, and Z. And for their skin color, when that person didn't even choose his skin color, that person didn't choose to be born white. I didn't choose to be born black. So when people, and listen, I've been extremely fortunate that I've never experienced intense discrimination. I've had as I'm sure most people of color have experienced a form of social racism, and something relatively heavy went down when I was traveling in Italy. But stuff like that, it wasn't I've never been attacked or anything like that, so I've been super fortunate. But even then, I don't get the mentality of persecuting someone when you can't even. I didn't decide to be born like this, you know what I mean? And just as you were saying, kind of back to my initial point. I totally agree. I think love is and hope is so needed right now. And even because I watched the video that AD sent me, and it was one of those videos which is it gets you thinking, and it's I often just look at what Black Lives Matter means to me, and there's the organizational part and the shadiness of America and all that kind of stuff. I don't trust America at all, and I always think there's just something, I always think there's something, and the timeliness, the elections of this year as well. So I'm just waiting to see how this all pans out. I hope there's some change. I really do, and. Just on what Black Lives Matter means to me, I heard another quote which you guys basically touched on. It's a similar analogy where you have two houses, one is on fire and another one is fine. Any fool can acknowledge that all lives matter. That is not even a conversation. That is not a conversation. The issue is this house is on fire. That's the emergency that we're talking about. And for me, I was even saying, really, do Black Lives matter? Yes. Have they mattered? No. That's what I think. And I for the past how many years, like I said, how many years I've seen this hashtag Black Lives Matter, I often just think Black lives have never mattered, ever. And that's where the attachment for me for Black Lives Matter, that's where it comes in. Again, do all lives matter? Yes. I'm not going to argue with you. But the All Lives Matter movement, as you're mentioning, is a direct, confrontational, defensive way. When a white person's no, all lives matter. Yeah. We're not saying that white lives don't matter. That it's a defense mechanism. So that's when people say that, I get annoyed, because yes, any person with a brain realizes that all lives matter. We're not saying all lives don't matter. We're saying that there's a clear downplaying on the effects of the black community in America and in the world. And I even kind of brought it back to myself, because again, as much as this was an American thing, I think it's brought light to a bunch of issues around the world. We've seen protests in the UK, as you mentioned, New Zealand, Italy, like a whole bunch of countries have stood up. Here in South Africa as well. I mean, we have had a history of it. And I thought about like my experience, and I was just like, you know what, I put out a thing on my story, and I've been asked about it. People are asking me, and I put out and I said, I don't want special treatment, I want equal treatment. And what I meant by that, and this was entirely based on my experience and like how I've grown up, where I've always been the token black guy.
Hey, bro, preach that.
I've always been the token black guy, you know. I've been
with the line of you're different from the others.
You're different from the others, or like you speak so well, you know. I'm just like, how do you want me to talk? Like, where did that standard of talking? Who is it related to? Obviously, it's, you know what I mean. So for me, it's when I say like I don't hate the way I grew up. You know, I've seen like both ends of the spectrum, where we grew up really poor. I was in Soweto. Shout out to CWJ Orlando, you know the vibes, and the hood. I grew up in Kenya as well. So in Kenya, bro.
Guys, I never knew this.
Yeah. So my dad worked there for like 5 years, bro. And so like I've seen like, and both my parents had really good jobs. So I always went to school, even though I was living in Soweto, I went to school in Sandton. You know, we took taxis and all that, bro. You know, we've done it. I was at Greyston Prep, which is like one of the richest primary schools in South Africa now, or at least in Joburg. I was at King's College, Bryanston, also, you know, pretty elite school in the north of Johannesburg. So I've always had like a more privileged lifestyle than like the average black person. Even though like where I was staying wasn't that great, but like I said, I was given opportunity to as your dad, you know, my parents worked really hard. I'm so fortunate of that. But as a result of that, growing up in like private schools, private institutions, you tend to be the only person of color. And that's always been my experience. And looking back on it now, I've always been the token guy, you know, let's include him because it's going to look bad if we don't. You know what I mean? You know, we all go to the same church, and I often found like I was always involved in stuff like always in front of the camera, the face, and it always like I mean it's fine, like I enjoy it, it's cool, I don't mind, this stuff is amazing.
We even said that you the face for black people.
Yeah, you see that's the thing, because like
he's our star boy.
Yeah, that's the thing. And like I said, I don't mind doing it because I'm happy to represent the people. But then oftentimes it was always like, who do we need? Let's just get Linda, you know? And it's always like, you know, do we need me here? Like, oh, you know, that kind of thing. And even outside of a church context, you know, with my friends, and I mean, I have a diverse group of friends, especially speaking about like the white friends and stuff. So when I said that, I don't want special treatment, I want equal treatment. I don't want to be, because it's always been the situation, I don't want to be seen as the token black guy. And I think a lot of black people, in South Africa especially, feel that because like, you know, we grow up in the northern suburbs, you know, we get these high paying jobs, which is predominantly, you know, white people excel and they get to the top or whatever the case may be, due to white privilege. That's a bigger conversation. That's another art dealers, and also hard work.
Hey, bro, we can go there. We can go there.
Yeah. Also hard work. I'm not negating any hard work and all that kind of stuff. But so like oftentimes, like even with my dad, he's always the white guy, the black guy at the table. You know what I mean? My dad is not white. My dad is black. Even though there's white people in my family, as you did here. But yeah, that was like kind of my initial thoughts to like everything you're saying. But the organizational thing was very interesting. It was quite an eye-opener as well.
But I think it's just there's a lot of ignorance, and we're taking it back to the Bible. But it's a famous proverb: "The truth will set you free." And I think
which everyone doesn't know is in the Bible. That is a Bible.
You all thought it was Main Street.
Yeah.
Goes back to the original G, the G-O-D. But anyway, I just think, I think if we're not having conversation, like exactly what you're saying earlier, man, it's like, if I could say one thing to white people, it's like, don't get defensive, and don't try to justify. Yeah. Just listen.
It looks bad.
Sure. Just listen.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, I think we need to go there. Like, white privilege is a real thing. And going back to truth and perception, like the reason that people try and justify and the people that like try and defend themselves is because when they hear white privilege, the first thing that white people say, but I'm not racist.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is like, I didn't grow up privileged.
Yeah.
You know, my parents weren't super wealthy, so you can't put that white privilege on me.
Yeah.
But I want to use my life as an example because that's all I got, you know, and I'm not talking on behalf of white people, black people, or anything like that. This is a personal thing. You've invited me on the show, and I'm just here to share my story. Like, my dad comes from Portugal when he was 16, okay? He can hardly speak English, yet he's worked hard, no doubt. But he had a head start because he was white. Okay? Growing up, I can look back in my bubble and say I wasn't privileged. Because there was times when my parents couldn't afford to pay my school fees. There was times when there was like, anyway, you know, I can go like, you know, I think we can all go and like, oh, woe is me.
Yeah.
I had it rough growing up, and I did. Compared to my brother and sister, I had it rough. Compared to some people, I had it rough. But compared to other people, dude, I was living in paradise. So when we talk about white privilege, we don't need white people to justify, to defend themselves. We just need white people to listen. Because although I wasn't rich, although, you know, like, I still have privilege. I benefited from a system. My parents, if they had the money, could go to the bank and get a loan for a house or for a car. The banks would have given to them because they were white. Black people in the same time growing up, if they went and asked for a loan, it's a no. Yeah. Education. I know I went to a government school and my parents could choose whichever government school in the area, and the education system was 10 times better than the Ubuntu education system in the townships. Yeah. So I benefited. I was privileged. I had a head start. Does that mean I'm racist? Does that mean all these other things? No, I think white people just need to acknowledge the situation and say, yeah, I had a head start. The system was in my favor. Yeah. And I think that would go a long way instead of trying to defend or justify white privilege. Yeah. Because there's a lot of white people, and you make white people look stupid when you try and justify and defend, because the facts are there. Yeah. You know, the system benefited white people. Yeah. Okay? But now it's not looking back and because I can say white privilege is real and I was privileged. Like I said, we weren't millionaires, you know, but the system benefited me. Yeah. So the thing is not about justifying white privilege, doing that kind of thing. I think the thing is just trying to understand. Until there's another famous cliche, like, you won't understand until you walk a mile in my shoes. Yeah. And I think this is the problem. And the beauty about conversations and the right conversations is that it will bring about empathy. Yeah. When we start sharing stories, when we allow people to share their stories. Because that's also the problem, is that, like, as soon as we start talking about race or sexism or all these other things, it's like, don't go there because it's sensitive. But if we never go there, we can never heal, we can never progress. Yeah. You know, and so unless you walk a mile in someone's shoes, you don't know what they go through. Yeah. And I think that's what the world is missing today, is empathy. Sure. We're not willing to see your perspective. Yeah. You're not willing to see my perspective. And like I said earlier, I don't think it's for white people, it's not a time to justify, it's not a time to defend, it's a time to listen. Sure. It's a time to acknowledge and say, guys, I want to be part of the solution. Yeah. Like, I can do better. You know, like what you're talking about, just like the token white guy and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes white people say things, they don't know what they're saying. And it can offend. Yeah. But you're coming from a white privileged scenario, and sometimes you don't even realize what you're saying. Yeah. But I think it's time not only for us to listen, but have a conversation and tell our friends that are of color, like, bro, if I say something stupid, call me out. I want to learn. Yeah. I want to, you know, I don't want to be racist. I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to learn. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? If I say something that makes you feel less than, call me out. I think that's the attitude we need to have.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're never going to grow. And we never go, so I think that's the biggest problem is perceptions. And so when you say Black Lives Matter and like you're getting people up, standing up, all lives matter, you mention white privilege, then it's like, and it's like, if there's always this barrier, we can't have a conversation.
Yeah.
Because there's this wall. But if we're willing to like, okay, I am going to keep quiet, talk to me. Tell me stories. Like you sharing, like you feeling like the token white guy. I'm token white guy. Like as if that's a thing. Feeling like the token black guy, and like that can affect you and your perspective moving forward.
Yeah.
Because when you pick for something or when you're doing something, in the back of your mind you're like, do I deserve to be here? Or did they just pick me because they want to look good or that kind of stuff, and it builds an insecurity in your own identity.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that's to me the scariest thing, is that identity is a huge problem. Yeah. And people not knowing who they are or feeling less than because of a system. And as a Christian, because we've been going there, God made us all in His image. Like, man, I don't know if some of you know this, but the Bible is not a white man's book. It's a Middle Eastern book. It was written in Arabic, Hebrew, and the only Western kind of language is Greek. Those are the three languages that the Bible's written. So when I've had conversations with some black guys about it, and come to me, it's like, you, Jesus, and that's the stereotype that we need to break, because certain churches have done a bad job talking about this.
Yeah.
And they've used the Bible to justify racism.
Yeah.
Okay? And that irritates me, because Jesus loves everybody. Jesus died for everyone. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. That's a famous scripture. Anyway, He loved the world. He didn't love some, He loved all.
Yeah.
He created all in His image. And we can start preaching and stuff here. But I think many people, when they read the Bible, they just see white faces because of how the gospel's been presented.
Yeah.
Who says Adam and Eve were white?
Sure.
We talk about Jesus being white. We know He wasn't white. He was a Middle Eastern Arab man. If you're thinking He was white,
your life is
But let's take it further back. What color was Adam and Eve? And in a lot of people's mind, they were white.
Yeah, even with me, like I read the Bible on a daily basis. The characters in my head, it's white guys, it's white people.
Exactly.
Jesus is a white person to me, God.
And so I just want to put it out there that even if the church or certain people have used the Bible, the Word of God, to justify racism, bro, that is uncalled for. They will be judged for it, and I can't stand for it, because God loves all people. And I think as a believer, when you see what's happening in the world, bro, your heart breaks, because God loves people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when people are getting mistreated and abused and killed for no reason, then that grieves God.
Yeah.
Big time.
And that thing with white privilege and being the token black guy, it's like if Adriano and I had to travel anywhere in the world, I will be treated as number 2, you'll be number 1, purely based off your skin color. Even bringing it back home, let's say we're at Pick and Pay and something gets stolen. First person they'll look at will be me. Even black people, that's how bad it's become.
Yeah.
Black people assume that, the white man says the black person steals. So the black guy stole. Don't even see that the white person could have stolen the situation, Like white privilege it's a genuine thing. That thing of, I could get a job today at a big company, sweet, I'll be happy. But I'll be sitting there thinking, is this because of BBBEE? Or is it because they genuinely see a talented person at what they do? And it's that thing of every single thing that happens in life, I second guess, did they choose me because I'm genuinely talented as a person, or is it because you black, we need demographic, we need people to see that we for black people, you know. So it's that thing of like, is it coming from a genuine place as you see me as a human being, or are you seeing that we don't want to get cancelled by society, so let's throw the black man there, let's do the quota, you know. It's always quoted this, quoted that. So it's like, as much as we can go up financially, it's that thing of like, did they choose me because I'm talented, that I know what I'm doing, or is it because my skin color says this? Because that then, like, yes, I would have the largest respect for my dad, from where his family comes from and the life we live right now. It's insane. And that thing of, a lot of people would assume that my dad is where he is because of BE. And nah, man, that guy's been through the trenches. And that thing of, people assume everything that I have, it's no, your dad is BE. And I'm like, you don't know my story. You don't know my family story.
Which tender did you win, bro?
You see, it's that assumption like, oh, you guys have houses. Like, yeah, we have houses. No, my dad's a hard worker.
Yeah.
He went through discrimination. People calling him the K word every single day at varsity. But he knew that, no, I can't hate on these people. They don't know any better.
Yeah.
Let me be an example to them, to the point where racist Afrikaans people in Stellenbosch respected my dad. Just because of that, things like, me showing hatred towards you won't change anything. Let me show you who I am.
And that's going back to empathy. It's like, I might say something controversial or stuff, but
it's about the views, brother.
Yeah, it's about the views. So let's just, like, bro, like what you're saying there is huge, because let's be real, if white people suffered a little bit of the injustices that black people suffered, there would be massive outcry.
Yeah.
You know, ESCOM go down and you got white people like ready to march because their rights were taken. You've taken my electricity.
Yeah.
And bro, if we go back, more than electricity was taken. Yeah. And so that's the white privilege coming out. An expectation that we deserve a certain level or standard of life. Yeah. And now you've switched off our lights, and now it is an outcry.
It's the end of the world.
It's the end of the world.
Yeah.
But some white people treat their animals better than they treat.
Yeah. I have friends like
that. So where have we and guys, I'm not against dogs and animals and cats and all that kind of stuff. Animals, cool, the world peace, green and all that kind of stuff. But when we have a greater love for animals than for people, then there's something wrong. Yeah. You know? And I just cringe knowing that, like, that we don't have empathy, man. That we don't see, like, we're not willing to, like, listen to your story and say, like, that is, and I think that is a problem. A lot of us are trying to, you know, because I think going forward, what does the future hold for the next generation? Because hate's going to perpetuate hate. Yeah. So I love what you're saying, is that your dad didn't hate. But is it wrong for certain people to hate and be angry?
That's a tough question.
And that's a tough question, because if the roles were reversed, I can guarantee you that there would be hate and anger. Yeah. Because if you treat it bad and you feel unjust, and this is not a just situation, you're going to react. And so I just feel like hate's going to perpetuate hate. And I think the next generation is the answer to this. But the next generation needs to have a clean slate. So what does that mean? I mean it's huge, because there's systematic racism. There's certain systems in place. There's government things that have been issued that favor certain people. Yeah. So how do we change that? And it's almost like it's gonna require a miracle. It's gonna require a God kind of love to be humble and say, like, we need to learn, we need to grow. Because the thing is, I'm sure there's a lot of white people, well, for those white people that still stuck around, because maybe I've insulted them, shout out to you guys. But the thing is, like, there's also real questions, because there's certain young white people that are exposed to reverse racism now. Yeah. So how do we work forward as people, white, black, Indian, colored, I know in America, if you say colored, it's
with us, it's actually a group of people.
It's an actual group of people, okay? They say mixed race. Anyway, we don't want to go there. But
again, we're in South Africa.
But the thing is, how do we move forward and not perpetuate the same hatred so that all men can benefit? So, like you're saying, you don't want special treatment, you want equal treatment.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the question we should be asking. It's like, yes, we need to listen, we need to hear each other's stories, we need to empathize, we need to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, and then as a people, we need to say, like, how do we move forward so that this doesn't happen again? Because I'm hoping that this thing is just obviously just open up a wound. And that was the one analogy I wanted to use. I don't know if you guys have ever had a splinter piece of wood go into like your hand or your any part of your body. And the thing is, if you don't take the splinter out, okay, it's going to hurt to take the splinter out. But if you don't take it out, it's going to like
it's going to like grow under your skin.
It's going to grow under the skin. Your skin's going to grow over. But every time you touch that piece, it's going to like start getting. Now I'm losing all the words and stuff in my mind, but it's going to be like septic. Yes. Yeah, there we go. And
Educate a black man.
But
Shout to Panashe doctor.
But every time you touch that wound, it's going to be sore. And I think that's racism is that wound. It would have been sore to take it out and deal with it. But because we didn't deal with it, life carried on. And every time that gets touched, your body's like, pain. And it's almost like it's time that we deal with this. It's time that we remove it, and it's going to hurt to remove that piece of skin. But once it's out, the body can heal itself, the body can move forward. And as a humanity, as a people, if we're not willing to pull back the scars, have a time to grieve and be real, people are allowed to be angry. You know, if you say, well, like, why are they angry? You know, yes, I don't agree with the looting. I don't agree with hurting people and being revengeful. I think these protests need to happen because I think it's time to stand up and say, let's deal with this. Let's not sweep it under the carpet. Let's deal with it, but at the same time, deal with it in a way that is going to produce change.
Yeah, like with what you're saying about how do we go forward. I think the biggest thing is, as black people, not trying to make white people feel guilt for what's happened, what's happening. Because I don't think guilt will change a person's thinking. For instance, if we have an argument, we have two separate points. And I just bash you, and you start crying, and you tell me, nah, blah, 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 this, that. I'd be like, sweet, I guess what I said affected you, but I'm still right, because in my head, this is all I know. Some white people, that's all they know. Like, racism to them isn't a thing. This is who I am as a person. So there's that thing of giving tools instead of giving guilt. Because guilt is not a tool. Guilt won't change anything. It's me saying, dude, listen here. As Adriano said, calling you out. Not bashing you, calling you out. More like, okay, no, you don't say that. Because as a white person, you say that, but as a black person, this is how I take it in. Because of this. Now that I'm giving you a map as in, okay, sweet, this term here, no, I don't use it. Because this is the effect that it has. Whereas in my shoes, this is just a word. But to them, as black people or people of color, this is the power this word has. Because of the history of it. You know, so it's that thing of me not sitting here, no, you guys are my great uncles, blah, blah, blah. That won't solve anything. Because he'll be like, but this is how I was brought up. This is what I was taught. This is how I see life. I grew up knowing that white people are above black people. And there's that thing as black people, like, no, we all people. If I stab you right now, you're going to bleed. Yes, you are. Stab a black person, they're going to bleed. We all die, don't we? It's that thing of we all share the exact same thing. It's just about changing the levels and the perspective of who's who. There's no one is above anyone. Like, it's a deeper conversation of seeing that there is more to life than what we see. Like black people being in front of white people, we need to start seeing ourselves as equal, not waiting for them to treat us as equals.
Sure.
Like you and I spoke about this, walking into a room full of white people who are your friends, who you know, there's still that thing of I'm less than. Even financially, you could be where your family could be milking it. Like with me, the situations where I'm not trying to flex or anything, but I know financially here, I'm the one on a higher pedestal. But still, the white man, I need their approval. And it's that thing when I start seeing myself as I'm equal because you human and I'm human. That's it.
Yeah.
Then we as black people can start uplifting and start giving tools to white people of guys. Yes, there's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of animosity, but for us to move forward in unity, things need to change. You can't just go off saying stuff because, you know, my parents say it's cool, I can say it. Or, nah, it's funny, or nah, stuff like that has to go. Stuff like that has to change. And it's those hard conversations that need to be had with all the black people. If you have white friends and that white friend says offensive stuff, sit down and be like, dude, what you say hurts me. It hurts my family. I might not take it personally, but I know if I had to bring you in front of my family, it'll hurt them, what you say. And it's that thing of, cool, that thing of white privilege when they say, no, I'm not racist, but you have a racist uncle. Or how you've changing his thinking. How are you going to change his children's thinking? You know, what impact are you having in your circles? And as much as it's a white person thing for them to change their racist habits, it's also a black person thing to change their thinking. And that's, call me out, say I'm wrong, all the haters out there, but that thing of, it's a two-way street. Black people, we can't sit here and wait for white people to treat us equally, because newsflash, it won't happen. We need to be proactive. We need to be playing our role in this situation of, okay, it's a taxing job, it's going to be tiring, it's going to be like, no, but you should know by now. Some people don't know. This 20-minute conversation, someone's going to go home to their racist parents for 16 hours or whatever. Racist conversations are going to happen. Our chat is gone. You know? So like it's such a deep conversation. There's so much that we have to do as black people. And the biggest thing of all, words don't say enough. We need to show it. The way we walk around, the way we maneuver as black people has to change. We can't get into environments and feel less than a white person, but then expect a white person to elevate us, because what we're doing there is we're waiting for their permission. We need to get in there. You're human, I'm human. You have an end date, I have an end date on this earth. So let's be equals. And that thing of, when you have that confidence as a person, just with black people, it starts within us, that confidence. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to walk like this. I'm going to talk like this. Like I look at guys like Tabang and Naf. They don't talk like us. They are them. They have that Kasi touch. They speak English, go into Zulu. That's them, you know. To some white people, that might be like, but you're not like Linda. Linda speaks English all the time. Linda that. Now, if I was in their shoes, it could be like, oh, is that how white people accept black people? I must be like Linda. But it's no. It's also showing white people. Within black people, there's thousands of cultures. You and I have different cultures. We only share skin color. That's the only thing we share. That's literally it. But our cultures, we're so diverse. It's also us showing our culture. This is us.
That's
don't treat black people as no, it's a copy and paste. It's not. Every single black person has different cultures. Even in one language of Zulu. There's many cultures within Zulu. You know, and it's that thing of, let's be proud of who we are. Let's showcase our heritage. You know, not for acceptance, but as who we are. This is who we are.
Yeah.
Take me as I am or don't take me at all.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Let me switch over.
Are we still there?
Just before we end, so last intermission. Back, part three and final part.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Just, I guess this is my last thoughts on this before we end. It's been a good chat. We have home group just now.
Yes.
Yeah. So before we end, I loved what both of you are saying just about, I think you like really set up the question well, like how do we change? And everything you said, I agree with. I guess my only thing on it is, again, going back to my points in the top of the show, was I think as Linda Karabo Mdluli, I've lost all human strength to do it. I really have. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I think everything both of you are saying, Jobs, especially about the whole when you come to the table, there shouldn't be an expectation that we're going to be treated equally, because I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Historically we've seen it, and I totally agree. I think for me, everything you're saying is you guys are saying is right, and I want to just add also just what Adriano was saying, just having empathy for people, which also aligns with what you're saying, like having an understanding for different cultures, for different people. I think for me the way to end racism is really through understanding of other cultures, or it's one of the ways, should I say. I don't want to say it's the final solution, because I don't know. I don't know. But I do think it's an important way to understand different cultures. And I'm not saying and I'm also not saying just date a black girl or black people date a white person to understand their cultures. I'm not saying that. If you want to.
I mean,
It's a good step, but if you want to, if you don't want to, that's totally chill. Everyone has preference. But I think having understanding, and this is more for white people, I think, especially here in South Africa, I think one thing that I don't get in South Africa is the necessities to be racist in South Africa, when South Africa is just such a melting pot, as you said, of so many different cultures, so many different cultures. Even if you look, even white people here, no white person is just a white person here. They're Portuguese or Irish, English or whatever. Even then there's culture there.
Culture within cultures.
Even the go to Cape Town, Cape Malay, the whole history there. Cape, even you go a bit.
Every single province has a story.
Every
different cultures.
Dude, even our you're mentioning, just within black cultures, Zulus and Sotho people are not the same. We're not the same, Venda people to Shangaan people, we're not the same. Tsonga people, they're not the same, you know what I mean? We may look the same color-wise, we may have the same.
We only share skin color.
Jabulani and I only share skin color. As far as culture goes, that is really it. But then I think there's such I always like I said, I always love to hear about different cultures. I always love to hear, and I think again it comes back to how blessed I've been to grow up in such a mixed family. So I think I've been very fortunate, and for me if I as mixed as my family is, if I'm still feeling like this, then there's a problem. I think there's a problem. There really is a problem. Yeah. But I think I don't want to. Also, I just want to completely preface this by saying everything we're saying here is entirely our opinion. We're not coming with the solution for mankind or whatever. We're giving our experiences and our things. I think people tend to do that. We do have the solution as Jesus. We did say that, and but let me say, I'll say this entirely from my perspective, and this is entirely my opinion. I do think that I know I can't do this with my own strength. I've acknowledged that, and I think I've come to that realization now that I've completely lost all strength to have grace and patience for people who think like this, and for this whole thing, you know what I mean? I need God. I need God to give me the grace and His strength, because I can't do it anymore. You know what I mean? I've done. I love listening to. I love having conversations like this where I can hear different perspectives. I love hearing different perspectives. That only goes so much for me, where I'm just man, I'm still feeling angry. And again, to our point, is it okay for people to feel angry? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. But I do think people should feel angry. I do think this is a pandemic in the world that has been going on, and I think that there has to be some kind of level of understanding, because that's, in my opinion, that's one of the biggest ways that's going to cause it. But for you guys, I'll this is the last question to you guys. What are your final thoughts on on this whole thing. And I guess we'll have more conversations like this, and this won't be the last time. And I think we
Yeah.
won't necessarily just be black.
Hopefully I'll get an invite back. And
I know you're back already, you know. Yeah, round two.
Yeah.
It won't just be like this. It'll be a bunch of cool stuff. Yeah.
Sure. I think final thoughts. I mean, like you're saying, this is an ongoing conversation. My personal feelings, my mantra that I try to teach my children is that racism is the highest form of stupidity.
Sure.
I mean, that you know, like you said earlier, I can't recollect when I decided to be born white. None of us had that privilege, which is not a privilege.
It's not your choice.
I think, and going back to what I think the privilege of traveling the world, like I've got to hang out with the Maasai, like legit, one of the Zulu and the Maasai tribes I think are like the most famous in the world. But, you know, I don't want to offend anyone, but like from movies and stuff like that, and I got to hang out with the Maasai. I've had the privilege of meeting Thai people, Chinese, spending time in China, in Canada, in the Middle East. So I've had the luxury of traveling, okay, and the privilege of traveling. And what I've loved is that every culture, there's something beautiful about every culture. But if we're not looking for it, we can miss out. And I just think that 2020, we think we're so tech savvy. We've got more information in our mobile devices than in all previous history put together. It's in our devices. So for us to still be so stupid in this day and age is a mystery. We call ourselves the most advanced technology. We've got all this information, and yet we can still judge a book by its cover. One of the oldest cliches that you get taught in nursery school or primary school, never judge a book by its cover. But that's all we do, all the time, because of our biases, our preferences, our culture, the way we were brought up. And like, to me, it's so sad, because every single culture, every single people group on this earth has something beautiful to offer.
Yeah.
But to come with the arrogance that we know better, you know, that we know it all, that people must just listen to us, that we've got all the answers, robs us from the beauty of humanity.
Yeah.
And for those of you who have the privilege to travel, do it, but do it with an open mind. Many people travel, they go to foreign countries. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think I'm just going to share it. Many people they want to go to a foreign exotic country, but then when they rock up there, they still want to eat McDonald's.
Sure.
They still want to stay at the white hotel or the modern hotel. And it's almost like, bro, you could have stayed at home to eat McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're going to travel with an open mind, meet the culture, see the culture, walk on the streets, eat their food, learn a little bit about them, and your experience would open your mind and open up your life in such a dramatic way. And I think for us to be like so close-minded that we want to experience something, but as long as we experience it on our own terms, we'll never grow or learn. And I don't know where I'm going with that and my final thoughts, but it's something that you said about mindsets. Is so important, how you see yourself. Like, even though you said, even though financially you could be in a better place than some white people when you walk in that room, but then you're still feeling inferior. It comes back to our identity. And there's an amazing proverb that says, as a man thinks, so is he. Sure. And I know that even though I'm white, I've suffered with insecurity my whole life. Never being good enough, do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think we all have a little bit of forms of that, but the beauty about God is that He wants to restore our identity because we were created in His image. Yeah. And through sin and through life and through this world, it's robbed us of our true identity. And so when we can't see who we truly are and who God created us, then we can never walk out in the fullness that God has for our lives. And I'm going to stop there, otherwise,
Preacher.
you know, the preacher's going to come out of me. But we could do another podcast on that, identity.
Yeah.
And whether you're white,
My favorite topic. Yeah.
whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're Indian, no matter what race you are, I think a lot of people struggle with identity. Yeah. The race thing, the sexism thing, the tribal thing just adds more dynamics to that. Yeah. And it robs us from really living free.
Yeah. My final thoughts on, what was the question?
Just on the topic as a whole.
Like, just take it, I was just, while Adriano was talking, I was just thinking about religions. All religions, there's a lot of topics of love, peace, loving others, all of that stuff. And whatever you believe in, whatever you subscribe to, there's love there. The biggest thing with this new movement of self-love and care about others, outside of the religion realm, there's the whole thing of care about yourself, care about people around you, stuff like that. We can see that the world is missing love.
Yeah.
You know? And there's that thing of learn to love yourself so you can love others. You know, I feel like that's the main thing. That's my biggest thought. From a Christian perspective, as a person who's in a relationship with God, love. There's abundance of love. Yeah. And there's, before I get on a preachy vibe, is that thing of like, Jesus died for me because he loves me that much.
Yeah.
He took all my sins purely because of love and to be in a relationship with me. That's it. So it's that thing of, that's my mandate as a human being, is to love others. I'm not going to see you're bad. I'm just going to love you as a person. Yeah. And I feel like that is the biggest key to changing minds. Like, I don't know the scripture, but it talks about like changing your heart and transforms your mind. I don't know. It's pretty popular.
Yeah, Romans 12.
Romans 12.
Yes, that one. It's that thing of we need to change our hearts in order for our minds to be transformed. And I feel like that's the key. It's not our efforts, you know. It's that thing of faith without deeds. It's that we want to see change, but with us just doing without having the heart to do, everything could be forgotten quickly. Like that thing I was saying to you last week, I was saying to Linda, I'm like, this bothers me how many people are posting Black Lives Matter, but in 2 weeks it'll be gone. They'll forget about it. Yeah. But there'll be those people from whenever the whole movement started still posting Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. So it's that thing, if your heart is not in it, are you truly wanting to see change?
Yeah, even like on that, like I often like think, because I remember saying to you, like how surprised I am at like the silence of like a lot of people during this time, and it's been very telling to me. And at the same time, like when people all of a sudden started posting this stuff, I'm like, where were you before? Like where were you when Trayvon Martin died? Where were you when, Tumelo Mogomotsi died, or whatever the case, whatever it is? And I think I loved what you said there. I think I heard John Gray say it. He was like, I want to give people the grace that I would want given to me. Sure. And I definitely want that to be kind of my final thought for this, and just in general my attitude going forward. I want to give people the grace, not just, with regards to their skin color or whatever, just as ethical human beings, like outside of race. I think there's just an ethical responsibility that we have to treat people with respect, to treat ourselves with respect so we can treat others with respect. I think that's not a Christian thing or Muslim thing, that's just a human ethical thing, you know what I mean? So even like, we're all Christian, but like outside of Christianity, I think there's a responsibility that we all carry to like not be douchebags and like not be like, you know what I mean? I just don't understand. And so I think for me, like my kind of final thoughts, and the perfect way to like kind of end this is, I think we've all kind of said it, like there's a level of understanding that you get by like exposing yourself to different cultures, being able to like love yourself and in turn love others. I think that's like one thing that I'm definitely picking up as far as everything. But guys, thank you. This was genuinely awesome.
Thank you.
This is a great. So I'd called Jobs literally today literally before we started. AD, thanks for
the invite, bro.
I was about to say thanks for having me, but I'm part of the audience. But anyway.
But hey, before you go, because this is technically your second episode, but it's your first official one. You're the featured.
The first one I didn't even know happened.
Yeah, we just sort of, that was an impromptu episode. It's called I Hate Drake, if you guys have listened before. Good episode. But where can people find you, social-wise? This is your time to punt yourself. Go.
Bro, I don't know if I want them to find me.
It's a very elusive man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on Instagram. I am Adriano Miguel.
I'll put it in front of you.
Yeah. I've never been one who wants fame or people to follow me, so I don't. I don't really want to punt myself.
Yeah.
But if I can be part of the solution and encouraging people to change their mindset, that's my passion, because like going back to the God thing, God has a plan and purpose for every single one of you guys watching, and his plan and purpose is amazing for you. Don't doubt that, because as Jabs was saying, God valued you so much that he sent his only son. That's how much he thinks you're worth. So in this time of identity and stuff, many people focus on sin, and yes, sin separates us from God, but Jesus didn't die because of sin. He died because he loves you. And he's got a plan that is so amazing for your life. And and I live to see people's lives being transformed, because that's what happened to me when I started following Jesus. He totally changed my mind. He totally changed my life. And that's the beauty about God, is that if you give him the opportunity, he will change your life.
He'll flip it upside down.
Yeah. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you guys have enjoyed our transition to visuals on YouTube. If you're listening via Spotify, Apple, Deezer, whatever the case may be, welcome back. We're in your ears. Hope you enjoyed this.
We're in Deezer.
We're everywhere, bro.
Guys, we are making moves.
We're everywhere. Google Podcasts.
Come on.
TuneIn Radio.
Come on.
iHeartRadio, even
Come on.
in the States. Bro, I saw a stat. There's more people watching in Los Angeles than there is in Sandton.
Hey guys,
And listening,
what
so-
I'm saying, if you see me on the streets and I have a big head, I mean, I'm in LA, baby.
First of all, we are so close to Sandton. I can't believe my Sandton people are not listening and watching. But thanks again, YouTube guys. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're new. Drop us a comment as well if you want to, what should we speak about next. Like I said, we got Tato Rampedi coming up next after this episode. He's got 35,000 subs on YouTube. He's a real star out there. This episode is probably going to come up before then, but going to give it some time to breathe. And if you guys want to interact with us in the comments, make sure to DM us as well. What's in the comments, we'll be happy to interact as far as commenting back. Let's get some discussion going as well. All our handles will flash up now. I hope so. And follow us, follow the art dealers, subscribe. We love you guys. Peace out.
Blessings.
Oh, that was dope, guys.